Hey everybody, it's Adam Berlanga. We've got some wonderful guests that are joining us this afternoon for something that I call Shoot for the Stars. So it's a class I put together a couple years ago, sharing my experience being new to Atlanta, new to real estate about 4 years ago, and really proud of the success that I've had. So now that I'm part of the Zach team, I'm really excited to share with the group this afternoon what my experience has been, and also share with them what we can offer them, maybe thinking about joining our team. So we're getting ready to get started. See you soon. What my job today is really share with you what my story is, being new to Atlanta and also new to real estate recently, and maybe share some tips for you for some success, and also at the end we're going to talk a little bit about the Zach team. So you've probably seen some of the marketing and included on the invitation that you saw. And ladies and gentlemen, I do want to introduce everybody to Zach Pasmanik, who's here today. He is our team leader, and Zach has been in business for how many years now, Zach?
45.
For 45 years, and how many clients has our team helped in that time?
I would say somewhere between 6,500 and 6,800.
So almost 6,800 people the Zach team has serviced over that time, and we're going to talk a little bit about our reputation, or at least the opinion I have of our reputation and how I got connected with Zach. But I will tell everybody it's been a delightful fit for us so far. I think that we are moving mountains together, and I'm super excited to share with everybody a little bit about what we have to offer as a team. So, backtracking a minute. So again, my name is Adam. I shared with everybody I'm somewhat new to Atlanta. I feel like that newness is kind of worn off now that I know my way around and don't need GPS to get to Costco anymore. But I'm originally from Chicago, so I'm from up north, so was born and raised. And I was the very first one in my family to go to college. And along with that, I wasn't quite sure, so how do I pick a school? Is it based off the climate? So I was looking at maybe going to school in Arizona because I had some cousins that lived there. But all of a sudden, one day as a high school senior, I got a brochure in the mail from a school called Northwood. Back then it was called Institute, and I'm like, what is this? It sounds like an insane asylum. And I saw that they had a student-run auto show, and they had an automotive marketing program, and I am a huge, even now, car fan. So I can tell you anything about a car from maybe late 70s, but if like 80s, 90s, I can name it from a mile away by the tail lamp. So if you didn't know that about me, I love cars. So that really piqued my interest, and I went to school in Midland, Michigan. And if you spent any time with Michigan, if you ask somebody what part of Michigan are you from, they pull out the hand and they go like this. Wade's doing the same thing. So Midland's about 2 hours north of Detroit. So I had a very successful experience there, so much so that my last year of college, Nissan North America announced in a student-run newspaper that I was reading one day, and I'm not a big reader, so I don't know what possessed me to actually read this flyer about what was going on at Northwood that day, but I looked at the back and I saw Northwood was offering a scholarship for aspiring juniors and seniors, and along with that scholarship, there were some opportunities with the company. So I went down to the scholarship office, had a lovely talk with the ladies there. They set me up with an interview, and fast forward, not only did I secure that internship for the summer, I got my last year of school paid for by Nissan. And I think I graduated on a Saturday. I moved back to Chicago on Sunday, and Monday morning I started my new job at Nissan. So I spent almost 12 years working at Nissan. And I'm going to tell everybody it was a wonderful company, a really great job. At the tail end, the way Nissan worked is you would do a regional rotation. So I worked in a regional office out of Chicago, but once a year, if you were good, and I was good, they would have us change jobs, and we'd call it your rotation. So I did things from working with cars coming off lease. I worked in customer service, marketing, parts and service for a long time, which was a lot of fun. But at the end, they made me the training manager for a zone of 190 car dealerships. And can you imagine getting the new cars off the line before they've even hit the public sometimes? And I get to drive those cars around and do presentations kind of like I'm doing today in front of groups of sales people at these dealerships. And if you guys can imagine, sometimes, I would be in a really tough crowd with a bunch of grouchy salespeople that, hey, what's this guy have to tell me about this car? I already know everything, and you're taking time away from me off the sales floor. And sometimes it would be one person, sometimes it would be two people, sometimes it would be the whole dealership of 40 people. I'd have a whole circle of people around me with notepads. I'm like, oh, I better make this good. But that point in that position was what really inspired me. I would consider myself in some regards to be an educator, but more so I love motivating and inspiring people. So when I'm really passionate about something, I think I exude that. And every job I've had since then, I've always tried to figure out an angle as far as what can I do to not only do that job, but how can I help other people coming from a place of service. So after about 12 years though, Nissan was doing its thing and it was going through some tough times. And even back then, I share with people, and guys, this was a long time ago. This was early 2000s. I'm a little older than I look. I'd say when I turn around, you can see how old I am back here. But back then, it was just still a very conservative environment, and I think I was still trying to figure out, was there a place for me going forward in this company? For somebody with a big personality like me, I think sometimes they weren't quite sure what to do with me, and I decided, you know what, I'm going to try something else. So I parted Nissan on wonderful terms, and I moved it along. I found a great position with a company called Aldo Shoes. Show of hands, anybody ever heard of Aldo? Of course, the girls, yes. So Aldo kind of falls under the category of fast fashion. And they brought me on as a store manager in downtown Chicago because I was still living in Chicago at the time. And y'all, I thought I had a cakewalk walking in. I'm like, how hard can this be managing a shoe store? And you guys, I think the first week I went home almost in tears. And I'm like, what did I do? What did I get myself into? Because I had never managed people before. So even at Nissan, when I had a pretty cush professional job, I had administrative support, but it wasn't like I was making a schedule for that person and giving them regular feedback. So I think it took me about a year to get my bearings, and I got to be really good at what I was doing. So the way Aldo works, I was pretty much in charge of my own small business. So I was managing the inventory, I was working with the regional manager on hiring, and I think the challenge was, if you guys have ever worked a retail job, you get people that get hired at 9 a.m., they go through training for 3 hours, they do their first employee purchase, getting 50% off all the shoes, they punch out for lunch, and then you never see them again. So that would happen sometimes, not always, but it was a whole different world, having to also find people to work in my store, and especially around the holidays, you'd have to double and sometimes triple your staff because of Black Friday and the holidays, and then what do you do with all those people after the holidays? So that job led to me becoming, after I learned what I needed to do and get good at what I was doing, they made me the fix-it guy. So in my tenure of 10 years with Aldo Shoes, I think I managed over 12 stores. So I started in Chicago, and every time they had a sick store, they'd send Adam to go be the cleanup guy. And here's what I tell people as far as how was I able to do that task so quickly is a couple things. Something that's a secret with retail, and from now on I think you guys are going to see what I'm talking about. Anytime you walk into a store, if you look up or if you look to the side, there's a laser beam that's counting a click every time you walk in and every time you walk out. Guys, they're not just counting how many people are walking in, they're tracking your productivity, because that number is linked to the cash register, and it's called your conversion, and that's how I learned a little bit about conversion. And we were under the magnifying glass every day down to the hour as far as what we were converting at. So depending on the store you were managing, you know, if you're in a busy downtown store where it's just the revolving doors going like this all day long, your conversion goal might be 3%. But if you're in maybe a nice, maybe like a Lenox Mall, where you don't have swarms of people walking in every 5 minutes, your conversion goal is much higher, because the expectation is you're going to train your team on how to mingle with the clients. And back then, the sales program had an acronym, and I still remember it to this day. We had to stay GOLD, G-O-L-D. It was greet the clients, open up a dialogue, lead the sale, and D was deepen brand loyalty. And I'm sharing that with you all, and I know I'm kind of giving a lot of background on my story, but I hope that you'll be taking mental notes as far as how does this translate over to real estate? Because I'm going to share some other roles that I've had, and guys, I'm going to tell you all of these different roles really gave me a competitive advantage being new to a city and new to real estate, because I had all this great experience but wasn't quite sure what to do with it, and then I got into real estate. But going back to Aldo, again, great experience, but how was I able to turn a sick store around in a matter of a week sometimes? Guys, I would tell people the secret to my success was having fun and having fun with my team. So this, if you take a look over here, this is something that the ZAC team put together. It's our mission and core values. So our mission at the ZAC team is to share our unique expertise, provide exceptional customer service, and to educate and guide our clients. As the most respected real estate team in Atlanta, our clients' best interest in it is our bottom line. And if you take a look at this word jumble on the bottom left-hand side, that is my favorite word on that. It's the word fun. So if you're not having fun in real estate, you guys picked the wrong profession. So, and I will also tell you the most successful agents are the ones that are smiling and having fun with their clients from day to day. So I digress. So when people would ask me what was the secret to your success, running those shoe stores, it was about having fun. We were charged with creating an atmosphere. And I would have to sometimes take a physical step back and look around and see what was going on in my store, because sometimes you'd open up the doors at 9 o'clock and the music would be kind of low, and all of a sudden it's noon, people are shopping on their lunch hour, and like the music's still real low, and my salespeople are just kind of moping around. I'd be like, come on, you guys, chop. I'll turn up the music, I'll open up those front doors, prop them open. I'm like, come on, guys, let's have some fun. And all of a sudden we're high-fiving. And when you can create that kind of energy, not only in a store like that, but when you're looking at your own business, you guys, you are your own small business owner, aren't you? So you're in charge of sometimes taking that temperature check as far as, are you going to just keep things the way they are? Or are you going to take some feedback and some ideas as far as what Adam talked about today and see if you can implement them into your business? So anyway, had a lot of fun with that. And I moved for personal reasons to Miami Beach, and Aldo loved me, so they gave me some of the flagship stores in Miami Beach. Can you imagine, I worked 1 block from the ocean, and there was a bar behind the store called Wet Willie's. And I don't know if you've ever been to Miami Beach, but we'd have people drunk in their bathing suits covered in sand, and that was my favorite kind of client, because when they had a couple drinks in them, they start shopping. So, we had a lot of fun, and then they moved me to Lincoln Road, and then I ended up moving to Washington, D.C., and I ended up running our store at Pentagon City Mall, which is right next door to the Pentagon, and then I ran our boutique store in Washington, D.C. in Georgetown. So all the while, I was still the fix-it guy, having a lot of fun, but you guys, retail at the end of the day is tough work. Show of hands, who's ever worked retail? You worked at Rich's, right? Show of hands. So a lot of people have that retail experience, and you know what I'm talking about. And my 4 least favorite words in retail is no call, no show. That means somebody was supposed to be there with you, and it always happened the day of a store visit where Aldo himself is coming in. It's like, has anybody heard from Sally? And it's like those horror stories sometimes. It just got really old. So I kept wondering what was going to be next for me. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get back into a corporate job. No more working holidays and weekends anymore. So I went suit shopping because I had been working for Aldo for so long. There you wore like the Zara stuff and the fast fashion, the H&M, because that was the look. And I needed like a nice navy suit. So I went all, and I was living in DC at the time, I went all over the city shopping for a suit and just didn't like anything either. It felt cheap because I was going to, Saks off Fifth or whatever it's called. And just, I didn't have a lot of money to spend, but so I decided one day when I was out shopping, I stopped at a place to have lunch, and I looked across the street and I saw, this is in Georgetown, I saw this sign that said Suit Supply. I'm like, what is that? And I could see in the window they had some really nice looking models with suits and bright pops of color. I'm like, looks kind of expensive, but let me check this out. So I walk in, and it's like the heavens open, the sun was shining on me, and I was just blown away with not only the look of the store, again, it's called Suit Supply, but also the experience. So when I walked in, I was greeted. They asked me what I was shopping for, and I explained, and the young lady I was working with at the time named Danielle Holland was my sales professional. She explained to me with an elevator pitch how it works, because it's, even though there's racks and racks of suits, you don't just walk in looking. Most people are there to shop for something. So she did what she needed to do, and I just said, you know what, it's a little bit more than I want to spend, but it's exactly what I want, and so what if I have to put it on a credit card? So that's what I did, and I took that suit home with me, and unfortunately, a couple of months went by, and I was doing phone interviews with companies, but nothing was clicking, nothing was making sense. And that poor blue suit was just hanging in my closet with the price tag still on it. So anyway, I started messaging a friend named Robin, and I said, hey, Robin, it's from Aldo. I said, she knew I was still at Aldo. She reached out to me. She's like, where are you? What are you doing? I said, well, I'm running. Hi, come on in. Go ahead and join us. Before you sit, if you'd like to grab some lunch, make yourself comfortable at any of the seats, okay? Right, and tell me your name?
Tammy.
Tammy, I'm Adam. Nice to meet you. So the suit was hanging in the closet. So anyway, nothing was clicking, and Robin reached out to me and said, Adam, where are you? What are you doing? And I said, well, I'm still at Aldo. She goes, and I said, well, where are you? She says, I'm at Suit Supply. And I said, oh my God. I said, funny story, I bought a suit there a couple weeks ago, so I'm familiar with it because it was right up the street from the Aldo store. And she's like, oh my God, you would love it. You have to come interview. I said, all right. And I thought to myself, it's retail again. Do I want to do this? But I was also really not happy with what I was doing at Aldo. So anyway, she set up the interview for me with a lady named Huda. Huda was Dutch because it's a Dutch company, so a lot of still Dutch influence in the stores. So I came in, and remember, I'd managed like 12 different stores, training teams on how to sell and not order take. And so the way the interview goes at Suit Supply, they'll take a classic navy suit off the rack, and then they'll take a really fun, what we call a fashion piece. So it might have like, window panes or a really bright color. They'll set them both on the styling tables, and they'll say, you have 20 minutes to put together 2 looks and present them. So I felt like I was on Project Runway or something. And so I look at her, I go like this. She's like, oh, okay. So I treated it like I was on a game show or something like that. So I'm going around the store, I'm grabbing everything I could put my hands on. I'm like, I'm gonna show this lady that I can sell. So I'm grabbing shoes, belt, shirt, tie, pocket square, a bag, and I put it together. So I said, I'm ready when you are. So I will also share with you, remember I was there a couple months ago buying my suit, so I remembered everything that sales professional did to show me the experience, what it's supposed to look like. So I remember that we always offer coffee, water, or tea to our guests. So we go into the role play, and I said, before we get started, Ms. Halal, may I offer you something to drink? So I'm going through the whole thing. So I'm going through my presentation and giving her, my word the last few weeks, if you know me, has been razzle dazzle. So I've been giving her the razzle dazzle, showing her the looks. And she's going like this. She's covering her mouth because she's laughing. Like, where is this guy from? So we go in, we sit in the back, and she's like, Adam, that was just, she was impressed. And she said, listen, we're going to absolutely move forward with you. And the way this works is we start everybody out on the sales floor. So you're going to get to learn not only about suiting, and you guys are so much to know about men's suiting, but you're going to learn about the company, and you are going to tell us what you want to do. And remember I said a few minutes ago, I love coaching, I love training, so I'm thinking, how am I going to weave that into a future for me? So I remember though, before I even sat down for the official interview, I went online and I was doing all my research about Suit Supply in case you never know if somebody's going to ask you, what do you know about us? And I was prepared. But I saw if you clicked on one of the links, it was talking about a sales mastery program. And of course, they had the supermodel on the cover and a good-looking Dutch guy. And it said they have an opportunity where you could spend time in the Netherlands doing stuff with them. And I'm like, oh, it's just marketing fluff. It's all hooey. So who knows? So anyway, I'm thinking like, how can I build a future for myself? So fast forward. I accepted the position, and your first week at Suit Supply, they send you to something called Suit School. And back then, this was about 11 years ago, Suit School was in New York. So if you can imagine, this company spent some money on us. They would put you on a train and send you to the Soho store in downtown New York, and it's beautiful. And I had really never been to New York, even though I lived in downtown Chicago for 10 years. Downtown New York is crazy compared to Chicago. I mean, it's just like, I'm doing this, looking at all the high rises, and my heart's beating, and I'm in the class. And it is about a 10-day training program, so they're paying for your accommodations, and they're going to teach you about fabrics, fits, alterations, so you have to know how to pin suits on people, you have to size them. There's a sales portion on how to sell, and at the end there's a test, and it's either pass or fail, and if you fail, they put you back on the train and sayonara, So, and it's stressful because people sometimes don't make it, and it's not for everybody, so it was intense. But I will tell you, third day in training, I was so impressed in everything that they were doing. I went up and I tapped on the trainer's shoulder. His name was Luke. Again, Luke looked like a supermodel. I'm like, knock, knock, knock. He's like, hey, Adam, what's up? I said, I have a question for you. He goes, what? And I said, how do I get your job? I don't know where that came from. So he said, Adam, there is a rhythm to everything that we do here. From the moment a client walks into the front door till the time that they're walking out with a shopping bag. I want you to get really good at learning that rhythm, start doing some stuff at your store, and then that's the advice I'm going to leave you with. So I remember that. I passed my test, went back to my store, and it took me several months to really get good at what I was doing, to the point where I was comfortable teaching new people. It was the worst thing in the world is when you missize somebody and then you're trying to do crazy alterations to it, and then someone's like, they'll come over and they'll grab the right size and they'll put the jacket on the client and it didn't need any tailoring. I'm like, oh shoot, you know. So there was a lot of that happening, but again, learning a whole new way of, you know, going from shoes to suits, and it was a much different atmosphere. And guys, I loved it. I really excelled at it. And this was a crazy busy store. I didn't know what I was getting into. I would be helping 3, sometimes 4 clients at a time on a busy Saturday. And there's a lot to do with suiting. It's not just like, bam, here, you know, let me ring you up. It's a process. So to be able to be so good to multitask and effectively and efficiently offer impeccable customer service with all 3 of those people, so much that when we're done and I'm ringing them up, I'm asking them to complete a survey for me on Google, you know, you have to be really good and confident enough on a busy Saturday to be able to ask for that ask, if you will. So anyway, I was getting good, and I was doing Saturday morning trainings for my store, and I started publishing pictures and a recap of my training sessions to the head Dutch guy. So what does he do? He takes my email and forwards it out to the whole company. Why isn't everybody doing what Adam's doing? So all of a sudden everyone's like, yeah, I'll show off, you know. But I was passionate about it. It was really coming from a place of service. I like doing that stuff. So fast forward a few months after that, if somebody was sick and couldn't host Suit School, they would have me come in from DC, and I was the guest speaker or the guest trainer doing a portion about what I was good at. And I kept telling them, guys, I really want to help teach Suit School. So they opened up a brand new Suit School in Dallas because we had a new store that opened up, and I was going down there regularly. And then I really was serious about wanting to take that over, and that was supposed to be the next step. And all of a sudden, an email goes out to the whole company inviting 5 or 7 Americans. You had to submit a 1-minute video recording yourself saying why you are the best fit to go to the Netherlands for a 3-month assignment, helping the underperforming stores and teaching them a little bit American-style customer service. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I had never been out of the country before. I had a passport, which I'd gotten years before, just sat in my drawer collecting dust. So I'm like, oh my gosh, my heart's pounding out of my chest. People are texting me like, did you see? You have to apply. I'm like, I'm already doing it right now. Leave me alone. So I'm putting my video together, and I submit it. And within a couple hours, I get a phone call from the head Dutch guy that was here in the US. He goes, all right, I'm going to share some stuff with you, but you can't tell anybody. I'm like, yeah. He goes, we want you to be in charge of Suit School for the US, like we talked about. However, you're also the #1 choice to go to the Netherlands for the summer. And I'm like, so he goes, you're going to accept the assignment. Don't tell anybody, but when you come back, we'll figure out, you know, we'll put a Band-Aid on it. We'll figure something out till you come back. So I go to the Netherlands, and they assign myself and a young lady named Mary Kay. Can't remember her last name at the moment, but she was from Denver. And they assigned us roommates, and we all got a different city in the Netherlands, and we had to help an underperforming store. So when we all show up at this round table, and he's telling us about our assigned stores, he looks at Mary Kate and I, and he says, Adam and Mary Kate, you guys are getting Rotterdam. And he said, God help you. I'm like, what? How bad can this be? Because the stores in the US are beautiful. They're showpieces. And Suit Supply started in 2000. So these stores have been around, even though Suit Supply has only been in the States maybe 10 years. So our first day we go in, and like doors are falling out the fitting rooms. There's holes in the floor, a very unmotivated sales team. And the stockroom was a disaster. So after we said, WTF did we get ourselves into? We came up with a plan, and within a week, we had that place put together. We had a sales team that was willing to listen to us, and we got all their metrics, I'm just going to say, in the green. So our computer had like 8 different metrics that we were being tracked on from hour to hour, and from a screen that was always bleeding red because you were underperforming, to fast forward a week, and I took a picture and I sent it to Philippe. He's like, oh my gosh, what did you guys do? So, you know, it was interesting, and there's a lot of parallels to what I'm sharing with you being in this business of realtors. Like, you never know who you're going to be paired with as a client to potentially work with. It could be going really great, or it could be like, I can't wait to get this at the closing table. I never want to see this person again. And there's a lot to be said sometimes when you're walking into like retail with those clients that you're helping, but also when you're helping out. Can you imagine being dropped in another country where they do speak English and they're very proud of their English, but they're talking about you behind your back, But you can usually tell because I'll hear the word American and I'm like, oh, they're talking about me, you know. So I had some learning lessons there as well. It wasn't perfect. So the Rotterdam store was 2 floors, and I remember it was an awkward setup. So people would walk in from the top floor, and all the suits were downstairs. So they'd be looking down these steps, and I'd be like, you know, hi, welcome in, come on, because that's what I was used to at the other locations. That's American, you know, like, hi, welcome in, come on down. And they'd be looking like this, and all of a sudden, a very thick Dutch accent, these clients would be asking me, so where are you from? And then, I don't want to talk politics, oh, how do you elect your president? Because back then we had a different president, you know? So I'm like, oh, don't blame me, you know? So it was a lot of learning experiences and mirroring and matching the clientele. So I learned how to tone it down a little bit because I was sometimes being disrespectful, being so loud and brash, is that the word? And learning again to read the clients and match their energy as they would come in. And I also learned, you know, you go out to drinks with the team and they'd be telling you like, now they're telling you the truth about how they felt about you those first couple of weeks. Yeah, we still remember your first week, and you're like, hi, welcome, and they're all imitating me. So anyway, so it was a 3-month assignment in Rotterdam, and Philippe, the gentleman that I was sending the pictures to, he would make surprise visits. So he would just drop in like on a busy Saturday and see how things were going. Anyway, the assignment ended and I went back. I was so sad because the Netherlands really, it took my heart. And Mary Kate and I treated every weekend like it was going to be our last. So, you know, if you look at a map, the Netherlands is like you've got Germany, you've got Italy, you've got Spain, you've got all kinds of great countries to explore. So every weekend we were taking trips. You can jump on a train for, you know, a couple euro. You can get a 99 euro flight to go to wherever. So again, we lived every weekend like it was our last. And then the assignment ended. I came back. And before I went back to my store, I went to Florida to visit my mom. So I remember I was in the back seat and my phone rang and it was my store manager from DC. Remember, I was supposed to go manage suit school in Dallas. And he goes, Adam, there are a lot of moving pieces to what I'm going to tell you. I go, yeah. And he says, you know, I've been trying to talk to somebody and get an answer as far as what we're supposed to do with you now that you're back. And he goes, Philippe wants to know if you'll come back for a year. I'm like, yeah. So he goes, all right, that's all we need to know. So I had to start the process because you're allowed to travel out of the US to at least the Netherlands. I can't speak for every country. 3 months is your limit. Otherwise, you have to have a work visa. So they had to work on the paperwork for me. But I kept saying, why me? Why me? There were 7 other people, but he, you know, confided in me later on, you know, we needed your energy over there. So I went back, but instead of just covering that one store, they got a really awesome apartment for me in Amsterdam. And the Netherlands is so small, guys, you can go to any city in Amsterdam and go there for the day and come back and sleep in your own bed by dinner time, you know. So you don't need a car there because public transportation is fantastic. So for a year, I would make my own schedule. I was partnered with a regional manager, and I would go fix not only underperforming stores in the Netherlands, but every time Philippe had a bad store visit in another country or another city, I get these phone calls, Adam, I need you to go to Berlin and just spend as much time as you need there to clean it up. And I'm like, okay, can you please go to Sydney, Australia or Barcelona? So it's always like, I spent a lot of time in Germany, so Dusseldorf, good Lord, I swear I could have gotten a mailing address there. I was there so long, but the whole time, can you imagine being in another fun country and doing something you're passionate about and loving it? So anyway, at the end of the 1-year assignment, I'm in the Rotterdam store, hanging out for the day, doing my thing, and here comes Philippe. And I said, hey, Philippe, can we set up some time on your calendar to talk? He goes, what's up? I said, well, my 1 year's coming up. He's like, Adam, what do you want to do? And I said, I don't want to go. He goes, done, another year. So 1 year led to 2 years, and then the assignment ended. But you guys, I will tell you, everything happens for a reason, because I came back in December of 2019, and then we all know what happened a few months later, right? So again, I'm a huge believer on everything happening for a reason, and that's when COVID hit, and I was just so grateful to be back with my friends, my family back then. And guys, I don't know about you, we all have our different COVID story, but I loved it, and if something happened again, I'd be like, yes! So I worked out every day, I was the happiest I've ever been, and plus where I lived, we were very careful. We had a couple houses and we were all friends, so we were very careful with what we were doing. So I still had that contact. But of course, Suit Supply shutters its doors. And a week later, I got a phone call, hey, do you want to get involved with an assignment we're trying to launch? you're going to be selling from, and you're going to be selling via video, which is something they've never done before, and you're going to offer customers, if they want to shop, 30% off. So if Suit Supply never has sales, nothing ever goes on sale. So for me to call, I had my client list, I'd say, hey, I'd introduce myself. And again, we didn't know when the world was going to open up, but I was selling it like, hey, when it does reopen, I can offer you 30% off. So I had people spending thousands with me, and we were having fun because I would be, there was nothing else to do. So I'm like, let me see that outfit on you. Let's refresh your wardrobe. And we're going through the closet. So anyway, after a couple weeks, it turned into this international project, and they put me in charge of one of the teams. So had a lot of fun with that. So anyway, fast forward, the world reopens, and I start, working back in the store, but we were still under the lockdown and the restrictions. So it wasn't like the world had fully reopened. And I said, Adam, this is the time to start thinking seriously about a career change. And my best friend, one of my best friends, Tom Hayashi, years ago, and he's so intuitive with things, but I'll never forget, he whispered in my ear one day, he said, Adam, you should look into real estate. You'd be really good. And I'm like, oh, ha, ha, So I remember that. And again, going through the job search again, I'm like, I don't know what I want to do, but I'm going to do something crazy. I am going to look into real estate, and I'm going to move out of DC because I don't want to do it here. So this is my time, because I had already lived in Florida. I wanted to move back someplace warm, but not Florida again. So I just looked at a map and I said, I think I'm going to check out Atlanta. And I heard nothing but good things about Atlanta for years. So I went online, you guys, I'm not kidding, I think I did 10 minutes of research. I'm like, is it a great place to live? I read great stuff, read about the weather, that's all I cared about. And I had visited Atlanta the year before, but I stopped here for 2 nights on my way to see my mom in Florida. And believe it or not, I got an Airbnb at Virginia Highland. And this is before I knew anything about Midtown or Atlanta. And I remembered it was too early for me to check in, so I got in my car to do some exploring. And I parked in this parking lot, and I had lunch at Metro Fresh. I got a coffee at Starbucks. So this neighborhood is very dear to me because I just coincidentally found it on my own. But anyway, I did that 10 minutes of research, and I said, Atlanta, it is. And I started sharing secretly because I didn't want Suit Supply to know I was going to quit when I was ready. But I would share with my intimate group what I was going to do. I'm like, why Atlanta? I'm like, well, why not? So we're like, are you sure? You're crazy. So you guys, I took the next couple of weeks, the next couple of months to just study. And you guys probably remember just as well as I did, I hadn't been a student for a long, long time, and it was kind of fun to be back in school again, but also terrifying because you hear these horror stories, how hard it is. So I studied my behind off, and remember, I was a DC resident, but wanted to get licensed here in Georgia. So I packed my car up with all of my winter suits, and I drove down in March or April, and I got a storage space over here next door at Extra Space Storage. I unloaded my car, and I went to take my test, and I said, sweet Jesus, if I don't pass this test, I'm screwed. So I passed my test, obviously, and it had a really happy ending. And why I'm sharing the story with you today is I kept saying, all I need is for somebody to teach me how to do the paperwork, because I think I have what it takes to be able to find clients and do this thing. But I also tell people, you guys, I didn't know what the heck I was getting myself into. I guess I didn't connect the two, that I was going to have to find my own leads. I just never even thought about it. And when I look back, I'm like, I don't know if it was smart that I got into it not knowing what I was doing, because I think I still would have done it anyway. But when I came down a couple weeks later to do some house hunting, remember, I got licensed, but I hadn't hung my license with the brokerage yet. So I got connected with a friend of a friend who was a lender, and he's like, do you have a realtor yet? I said, no, I don't. So he connected me with an agent. We hit it off. He says, Adam, before you go back, you really need to talk to, it's no secret I started out at the Keller Williams office here in Midtown. So I can be fussy sometimes. Like, I don't know, I was here to house hunt, not go interviewing to join a brokerage. So just so happened for some reason I brought some nice clothes with me. So I said, Adam, maybe this is the universe telling you to go check it out. So anyway, I went over there, really hit it off with the team lead there at the time. And I remember she put me on the spot. It was the interview, and she goes, so how much money are you going to make your first year? I'm like, oh God, it's a trick question, because we all say 100,000, right? And I'm like, I'm going to go in super low. So I'm like, oh, I'm 40. And she looked at me. She's like, oh, please. She starts telling me like the average back then, the average price point of a home. She's running the numbers, and she told me what I could make even if I sold 5 homes a year. I'm like, okay. And she's like, so where do you see yourself a year from now? And I don't know what possessed me, but I opened my mouth and I said, I'm going to be the rookie of the year. And she just kind of smiled at me, and she was very supportive. And oh my gosh, with your personality, from what I'm seeing, I think you can do it. So anyway, I left, and again, really didn't know what it meant to join a broker. Like, am I supposed to interview more, or is it just? And what I learned is everybody wants you, right? So it's really not that hard. It's just finding, though. What I learned is it's finding what's a good fit for you and doing that investigating and asking the questions. And lucky for me, I had a very, very close friend who truly was my inspiration and again, pushing me into real estate. He doesn't know this, but we were hanging out. I was visiting in Fort Lauderdale, and Tim was a very, very successful agent showing, the houses that you see in the magazine. So I'm tagging along for a showing. He's representing the listing, and I see this other guy pulling up in his Range Rover, or he's got the Hermes belt and the loafers. I'm looking at this guy, zero personality, and he's asking the silliest questions of Tim, and I'm like, Lord Jesus, I said, I can do this, I'm thinking to myself. So that was, again, my inspiration. So when I was here going through this, I called Tim. I said, Tim, what do I need to, I'm a question asker. I'm like, what do I need to do to be successful? He goes, number one, find a broker that's going to train you. And I'm like, okay, what else? He goes, figure out your area of expertise. And if you heard the word farm, that's the word he used, but I'm going to talk about your area of expertise in just a minute to help you with your inspiration as far as sometimes you feel stuck. Well, sometimes you say, I think we all are guilty of it, and I was too when I was a new agent. I covered the whole city. If you had a lead for me, it was Alpharetta, I'm going to go there, right? Even though I lived in Midtown, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. But he gave me some really good advice. I got hooked up with that brokerage, and I just did everything I was supposed to be doing, whatever the coach told me. So I took a couple of weeks to really be a student and immerse myself in all that education that the brokerage was offering. But I will also tell you, I was afraid. I was afraid to tell people I was a realtor. Because why? Because I felt like I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to write an offer. I didn't know how to open up a lockbox. When I look back, I'm like, oh, excuses, right? So I was really stifling myself. And the coach at the time said, Adam, right now, I want you to drop what you're doing and let everybody you know that you're a realtor, and do whatever you can to start marketing yourself. So that night, and I forgot to mention, I bought a condo here in Midtown at 800 Peachtree. It's called Cornerstone Village. But I was strategic in that purchase decision because I thought to myself, I remember Tim's advice about building a farm. I'm like, I'm going to be the realtor of choice in this square block of 310 units. So anyway, I joined the brokerage, did what I was supposed to do, and got plugged in. Oh, here's where I almost forgot. So I made a little poster for myself, and I also forgot to mention when I moved in at Cornerstone, and it wasn't me doing this on purpose, I really hit it off with the ladies in the office. So we had an awesome office team that runs the building, but they were really part of the reason why I chose that community. And if you met this lady named Trinetta, she gave me the tour of the property with my realtor. And by the time I left, she was hugging me. She's like, "Oh my God, I hope you move here." I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna buy one of the units here." So to this day, guys, that relationship with that office has just really helped not only my personal biz. I can't even tell you how many units I've sold in that building, because of a lot of it was not only with things I was doing, but a lot with their help. But I made a poster introducing myself as the realtor in the building, the preferred realtor in the building. And the ladies were so nice. They said, Adam, if you want to make a poster, sure, we'll even put them up for you. So they put up my poster. Y'all, the next morning, I woke up to an email saying, I need help listing my unit. I'm like, oh shoot, now what? It's like, so whenever I do training, I always talk about, like, I have a listing, now what? I have a buyer, now what? So we're here to help, right, Rita? So anyway, so here I am, and I'm just keeping an eye on times. I want to go through my best practice. Okay, so I got to step on it. So, so I'm going through the motions. So that was my first listing presentation. So I had a presentation that I'd studied the heck out of. Guys, to this day, the young lady that hired me, her name was Niaz. Niaz still does not know that she was my first listing. Because I went down there, I had my dress shoes on, my suit, my bag. I studied. I sat down with her. I gave her an amazing listing presentation. Of course, she hired me, but she also needed help buying something. So she wanted me to help list her place and buy something. So now I'm a buyer's agent also. So I find a place for her after looking at a couple places, and she says, all right, Adam, I think she was maybe 22, 23. She was a Georgia Tech graduate, so she was still kind of young. And she said, when we go, before I can make an offer on this place, my mom wants to see it, and she's bringing my aunt, and she goes, good luck. I'm like, oh no. So I'm in this beautiful listing at Mid-City Lofts, and it was a really pretty unit, but mom comes in with her sister, and they tore that place apart. No, Nia, did you see this? They're going on and on. I'm like, oh Lord, it's not that bad, lady, but I learned a few minutes later it was just her personality. And I wasn't quite sure if I blew it or was I just gonna have to start over from the drawing board with our search. So, but we're walking downstairs with the ladies and she looks at me, the mom, and she goes, Adam, your license, does it work all over Georgia? I go, of course it does. And I'm thinking to myself, I think it does. Of course it does. So remember, I'm new. And she goes, I might need your help. I might need your help helping me. I'm like, well, how can I help you? So she had this beautiful home in Johns Creek, and unfortunately she had lost her husband the year before, and she wanted to downsize, she was saying. So you guys, she was insisting she wanted a townhouse with an elevator in Alpharetta, and if you can imagine how much a house like that costs, I was so, I was confident, but I still had fear. I started seeing all of a sudden going from $300,000 and $400,000 listings I was showing to all of a sudden showings over $1 million. And I had a very modest car I was driving at the time. And guys, I will tell you, I think a lot of us are in this business, and there are two things we're being judged by. Seth, what would you say are the two things that most realtors are being judged by if somebody's meeting you for the first time?
Clothes.
What you're wearing.
When you show up.
And what you're driving, exactly. So guys, I didn't have the money to go buy the car I'm driving now, but I had to pour as much perfume as I could on it to kind of disguise a little bit. So it was cute. Her name was Brandy. That was my Nissan Juke. But I was showing up at these $1 million listings, and I just maybe park around the corner, and I'm walking up. Hi, I'm here with my bag, but I was always well dressed. My car was always spotless on the inside. In fact, a lot of people thought it was brand new. So you got to fake it till you make it, y'all. Is what I'm going to say. So, anyway, I will tell you, all of a sudden I realized, Adam, what are you afraid of? Just because a house has the number 1 in front of it, big deal. It's still a house. People are still down to earth, and if they're going to have an attitude, whatever. So, but anyway, where I'm going with this is that was my first kind of, one of my first listings, but I'm also getting my first transactions. But also, I was on Facebook, and I found a gentleman on Facebook through one of the groups I was on. His name was Paul, and he was introducing himself to the group, but also saying he had lived in Midtown for a couple months now, and he can't wait to one day buy a condo. So I'm like, real! I jumped on it, and I messaged him like, hey, I'm a realtor. I did it nicely. And I said, when are you free so I can explain a little bit about the process. So he ended up really putting me through a real interview. He's asking me questions, and how do you handle that as a newer agent, right? If you don't have any production under your belt to talk about, read my 1,000 Google reviews, and here I'm I sold 18 houses last year. I didn't have anything to talk about, but remember, my Suit Supply experience said, Paul, after we're done, we had pizza. We had pizza in Midtown. I said, I'm going to encourage you to do something for me. I said, I want you to Google Suit Supply Georgetown, DC, and I want you to read the reviews. And I knew, we always had contests, and we always had who could get the most Google reviews. Guys, I had so many free suits because I was always number 1. I love a contest. So later on, he confided in me. He said, Adam, I did that, and I cannot believe the things that people said about you. Even though that was a year ago, he found me, and I was mentioned multiple times. So I just want to share with you, there's business out there. You just really have to have what I call your real estate radar on. And it's like, I always imagine there's an invisible radar dish on my head, and I'm always ear hustling anytime I hear the word or an opportunity, I'm going to call it. It's an art. You have to make sure you work your way into the conversation, but you have to do it so that it seems organic and natural. So a huge part of my success was is not only repeat and referral business now, because I've been selling, my specialty really is Midtown condos, so I'll help one person, but then they're referring me to 2 other people. So guys, can you imagine building a business for yourself where some agents really need to join a team and take a look at opportunities that might be available where maybe the team is giving you leads, but sometimes wouldn't it be wonderful to not only have leads coming in that way, but also just to have your phone ring organically, where it's like, hi Adam, I'm Sally, I'm Susie's friend, and she said I should give you a call because I need to list my condo. It's like, woo, hi, I'd be happy to help you. Tell me more about your situation. So that's really the way I've built a lot of my business, is repeat and referral. But along with that, I'm going to give you guys just some quick some tips as far as, you guys all signed up to learn, like, how can I give my business a boost. So very first, I'm going to encourage everybody, if you're not already doing this, I want you to really work on building a solid foundation for yourself. So you need to give yourself some structure. So some people wake up and they just don't know like what they should be doing. So something that our team does is we really coach you on putting together not only your ideal weekly schedule, and so it's going to really just be, what we use is just a calendar Monday through Friday, Sunday through Saturday, right? But it's going to allow you to start filling in by hour what activities you should be doing. So I'm really proud of the fact, and I'm just kind of rewind for a second and then fast forward, but I want to share with everybody, before I get into the rest of the foundation, I forgot to mention how I got connected with Zach, which is really important. So part of my lead generation activities is going out and finding networking events. So I attended a networking event in Midtown one day, and I was here maybe 6 months, and again, I needed to get out of the house and mingle and meet people, so I found this networking event, and I met this gentleman named Anil, and then, I'm of course telling him I'm a realtor. He goes, oh, you're a realtor? You should meet my friend Zach. I'm like, oh, sure. So I wander over and I said, hi, Zach, I'm Adam. Your friend Anil said I should meet you. So we started talking, and before we ended our conversation, he goes, here, let me give you my card. So he gives me his card. I go, you're Zach of the Zach team? I said, I know who you are. Poor Zach, he's heard the story at least 1,000 times. But there is something to the power of having a really strong brand that the new kid in town even knew who Zach was, because I would see the listing agents, part of the Zach team, and I remember before you leave a Zach team listings, a lot of times there will be a little card sometimes on the door before you leave, and it says, it's asking for feedback, and one of the questions was, when can we expect an offer? So I thought that was brilliant, and it just really stuck out. And I'm like, is there really somebody named Zach? So anyway, we met socially, and we used to hang out also socially just for dinner once in a while, and Zach would just pour into me. So remember, I wasn't part of Remax or the Zach team, and this was a couple years ago, and we just really hit it off. So not only is he a friend, a confidant, but somebody that was willing to give from his heart and come from a place of service, because I love not being the smartest person in the room. I love asking questions, especially when somebody's going to be selfless and just pour into me for no reason. So I really learned a lot from Zach since that first interaction with him. But I would laugh because once in a while we'd meet for dinner and Zach would be waiting for me at the bar and he'd have that little plastic bag waiting for me, or a paper bag. I'm like, oh shoot, he's giving me more reading assignments. And I hate reading, but I will tell you, one of the best books that he gave me to read was called The World's Greatest Salesman. So please write that down if you haven't already. It's a quick read. I think I knocked it out in one day, but it's a story, and it has a really good message about the basics of being a really good salesperson, but it's the world's greatest salesperson. And I think if you ask any real estate professional, they'll tell you, oh, it's a great book to read. So I remember that was one of the books that he gave me. But again, coming from that place of service and pouring into me, learning so much from him, that there was an opportunity last summer where there was an opportunity for me to join his team as a sales manager, because he saw what I was doing as a successful solo agent, but also making me an equity partner. So I have, that is part of my story. But with that, you guys, I can't tell you how proud I am, and so what an honor it is to be in business with somebody that truly is. I feel like I'm with a celebrity a lot of times, and Zach is very modest, so if we're out together and they find out that we're in real estate, and I find out they're from Georgia, or especially from Atlanta, I'll say, have you heard of the Zach team? And they always say, Zach did it again. I said, absolutely. I said, well, this is Zach. And they're like, oh my gosh. So a bit of a local celebrity, but again, having that name recognition is very important, and I love, again, because he's so modest, I love kind of being able to share that information on his behalf sometimes. So it makes me feel really good inside that I know I joined the right team with that name recognition. So with that, I'm going to go back into building that foundation. So our team, when we have our team members, we have them complete an ideal weekly schedule. You guys, there's really, we're not doing it to be mean, I say, or to be bad guys. It's really, people always say they need to join a team because of accountability. They're missing that motivation to get out of bed and be held to a schedule. So we are going to help you with that. And something that I brought over from my last brokerage, and something I felt strongly about in talking with Zach is, all right, Zach, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do things my way, because every morning for the last 3 years, I led an 8:30 a.m. script practice call. So Monday through Friday at 8:30, we're on Zoom. I don't care if my team's in their pajamas or if they're walking their dog or whatever, as long as they're present. And even if they can't talk, if they just want to listen, I'm just glad that they're getting plugged in. And then at 9, we roll into something called Coffee Talk. For the next 30 minutes, I just go around the Zoom screen and I ask everybody to tell me something good. So it can be real estate related, it can be about a closing you've got today, or maybe you got a new, Rita, what happened last night?
I got a new listing, guys.
A new listing, yay! And she just joined our team when?
Literally last week.
So we said, Rita, how do you go get that appointment, and we're going to help you get to the closing table. So we got you. So it can be a wonderful victory like that, or it could be simple. I don't ever want to hear, I don't have anything to be grateful for. Nothing. Yes, there is. You're alive. You can say something. So don't give me that nonsense. So anyway, that's important. But also, we have a team meeting every Thursday morning for an hour. And guys, I treat it as my personal challenge to not only make sure those meetings are educational, informational, because it's an investment of your time. We're not asking you just to unplug from everything you're doing for an hour for no reason, but I also think that there has to be a little bit of entertainment to everything that we do. So I want you guys, if you're going on vacation, we still have members on our team that are calling in from their Zoom because they don't want to miss what we're doing in the morning. So that's very important. But also, I think that a lot of people forget about when it comes down to actually doing the work. The ideal weekly schedule is designed to give you time blocks in your day when you're going to do your lead follow-up. So for instance, on the Zach team, we're giving you a steady stream of leads, and it's up to you to determine, and it seems like for a lot of us in the team, right after we end that call at 9:30 a.m., that's when you get into work mode and you're going through and following up with the leads that we gave you. So you're doing your lead follow-up, but it's imperative that you build a bunker around yourself for that time period that you're allotted. So Seth, if you're saying I'm going to make follow-up calls from 9:30 to lunchtime, are you building that wall around you where you don't have the TV on, you don't have distractions, maybe the dog's already been let out, so you know that he's good for a while, you don't have your partner or your significant other in your face, they have to respect that you are working. So, you're building that bunker around yourself and being fearless with that, making sure you're being able to do your work. And then also with that, we insist that each month you are taking advantage of a minimum of 2 CE classes. So, funny story, I got a notice from our brokerage day before yesterday saying it's time to renew your license, and don't forget you have to complete at least 30 hours of CE before you can renew. I'm like, oh shoot, do I have enough? I'm like, I think I do. So I went in and logged in and said I had 60 hours, and thanks to Zach, because I've been doing as much as I can. But again, this is what we're trying to do, is not only help everybody get some structures themselves, and everybody's got to turn it in every Friday to Zach and myself so we can take a look at what you're doing, but we want to make sure we're there to support you in that. So again, those continuing education courses are so important because Zach's philosophy is knowledge is power. And we want to make sure we have the best team out there. Because guys, can you imagine, and if you've been in real estate for a while, doesn't it make you feel really, really good, like you have a superpower when you know a contract inside and out, and you have to write an offer, and you're going to make it bulletproof so that you're protecting your buyer? Or if you're working with a seller, it just makes you feel good that you've got everything ready so that your listing is so perfect that anybody can write an offer without having to pick up the phone and say, where are your disclosures? And asking all the nonsense questions that you should have had set up. So anyway, we want to make sure that all of our team members are educated because that's part of our brand, isn't it? We don't want people having a negative experience with our team because of a lack of education. So we want to make sure you are protected all along the way. We also are passionate about making sure our team has a business plan. So I know with my old brokerage, it would be October was business writing season or something like that, whatever title they had on it. And we would sit in a class for a couple hours and write out our business plan for the next year. But you guys, I'll be honest, people get busy and they get lazy. Do they ever look at the document again? Nope, they get home, they put it on their desk or they stick it in a drawer and they never look at it again. This is a living, breathing document that you will be looking at every single week, helping to keep you on track. So if your goal for this year is to sell 13 homes and it's February and you still haven't sold anything, guys, we want to make sure you are doing a reality check. How are we going to get you to stay on track to the 13? We're doing a deep dive and we're asking our team members, how many hours did you work last week? Are you working weekends? Sometimes some people we have to have a tough conversation with them because you get into real estate for the wrong reasons. They get into real estate for the razzle dazzle that they see on TV with, the stuff that is so unreal, right? It's not all, race cars and fashion and the stuff, not crawling in the dirty closet with your flashlight trying to see how old the HVAC is, So that's the part they don't show you on TV. But we want to keep you on track with that business plan and readjust as possible, as necessary. Also, you need to find a good coach or a mentor. So if you don't have one already, here in the Zach team, you have myself as sharing my experience and my expertise. You also have Zach, which God bless him, but Zach keeps saying he's going to try and go part-time this year, but I'll believe it when I see it. But we are even encouraged in our presentations when we're working with a potential list, either a buyer or a seller. We are encouraged still to this day by Zach to let that person know that he is accessible. He's just a phone call away. He just asked that we warn him in advance that he's on speaker if somebody's in the room. But I just still appreciate that he's very much still available. But again, it's really hard to just, so many people have that pride sometimes. They don't ask for help or don't ask for somebody to pick their brain or to ask for feedback on things that they're doing. So making sure that you have a coach or a mentor in your life. I also want to talk about if, again, you're having some difficulty getting focused, I have been challenging people on my team to determine what is your area of expertise. So, for me, I have built a really solid name for myself being the Midtown condo specialist. So when I used to walk around my old office, jokingly I'd hear the guy saying, "Condo King," and I'd be like, yeah, I do the my poor muscles, I do this. And that was a running joke. But I will also tell you, we had a young lady that used to work at the front desk. And I remember when she was new, I was strategic in what I did, but also coming from a place of service. I went up and I introduced myself, and I also told her, even though our office is in Midtown, I feel like I'm the only one that lived in Midtown out of 340 agents. And I said, if you ever have anybody that needs help finding a condo in Midtown, I'm your guy. I told her my address. You guys, this poor girl, the phone would ring. She didn't know who to give the people to because it would be like, ring, ring, I need help listing my condo. And she'd just send them on my way. And I'd always follow up with flowers or something to eat for her. Do you think she would continue to give me those leads? Absolutely. So, those are just, again, just an idea of things that don't cost you anything. People spend thousands of dollars on postcards and they're frustrated because they sent 2 out and they didn't get a phone call. When a lot of this business is just relationship business. And I remember seeing t-shirts before at my old brokerage that said, real estate is a contact sport. So think about it. What are you doing to forge those relationships so that the business finds you organically? So your area of expertise. So I'm Midtown Condos, and I would encourage you to start thinking about geography. So sometimes people are like, I don't know where I should say is my area of, geographically. Guys, don't overthink this. It's your neighborhood. And maybe you live in an apartment building, that can still be your area of expertise, is maybe the area around the apartment, but have you done anything even internally to market yourself? Have you gone downstairs to the leasing office and introduced yourself? Because most people might be leasing, but they want to buy something eventually, right? Hopefully, unless you're my 50-year-old brother who, anyway, that's another story. Bless his heart. So anyway, if you forge that relationship and make sure they have a stack of your business cards and you're making an appearance every once in a while, maybe bringing them a box of sweets or donuts or a present around the holiday, those are things that I do in my building. And you better believe, even though I'm doing everything I can, so I send out my own postcards, I'm in charge of the social committee for my building, I do everything I can, I mingle, I'm at the pool, I'm introducing myself to everybody all summer long, but for some odd reason there are still people in my building who don't know who I am. I've tried everything, I swear, but they go down to the office and they'll say, hey Tamara, we're thinking of listing our place, do you have a suggestion? Who do you think she connects them to? Me. So again, you can't always assume that everybody, just because you're doing all this stuff, knows who you are. So being, you're going to try your hardest, but also start thinking about with that area of expertise, what are you doing in your own backyard? But once you do, and I see examples too where somebody might live in, let's just say Decatur, and they say, I'm going to become the Midtown expert. You guys, I'm not telling you to stay in your own lane just because now you're in my backyard. But you really have to know a lot. And for me, for the condos, I need to know who was the name of the builder. Sometimes it's important. I need to know the names of maybe the front desk staff that helps me with the lock boxes. I need to know how old the building is, how's the HOA, where's the management office located, how do I park there, all kinds of crazy stuff. And when you have the intimate knowledge, once you determine what your area is, that is going to make you the expert. And you can't really do that when you live in Decatur and you only come into Midtown and maybe when you have a client that wants to go shop for a condo or something. So again, I'm not doing it to be selfish saying stay out of my backyard, but stay in Decatur. I have no idea what's going on in Decatur. Seriously, I don't know about any. I know one restaurant that I had lunch at, which is fantastic, but if you live in Decatur, why don't you make that your farm, your area of expertise, where you have your list of favorite businesses. People want to know who's a good doctor there, who's a good dentist, where should I get my hair cut, what's your favorite restaurant, who's the owner of that restaurant, and not only that, but do the owners of those businesses know you? So that's really important too. So Midtown, you better believe the guy that cuts my hair is giving me business, and if he wasn't, I would fire him, and I did that. I learned that in the class a couple years ago. If your barber or your hairstylist isn't sending you business, it's time to change. Or maybe, do they know that you're a realtor? Maybe it's shame on you. Do they have your card? So anyway, start thinking, and I've got my cards up here, guys. If you want to continue the conversation after today, I'm happy to be of service and share with you some suggestions. But start thinking about your area of expertise. And the last thing I'm going to challenge everybody with is, what does your brand look like? So I'm going to confess, I went through each and every one of your names before the class today to see if I could find you. Some of you, I could find you bright as day. There you were. I saw the name of your brokerage. I saw a headshot of you everywhere I looked. Other people, and it's probably the people that didn't show up today, I couldn't find to save my life. If you said, Adam, I'll give you $100 if you can find this person in the next 5 minutes, I could not find them. I was trying everything. So number one, I'm going to encourage you to go home and Google yourself and see what comes up. Guys, if nothing comes up, that is a big aha, because show of hands, is anybody in the room single right now and actively dating on the apps maybe? There's a half a hand. So I'm not going to get too much in your business, but have you dabbled in online dating?
So I'm newly single, like about 7-8 months, and I'm taking a break.
Okay, well, I want you to rewind to maybe a couple months ago when maybe you were thinking about dating. If you did go on a date, what's the first thing you did before you even agreed to the date?
I don't Google people because I don't want them to Google me.
Okay. Well, Janetta, you are very brave, because I have a lot of single girlfriends and they should be FBI agents with the stuff they find. Lord. Anyway, and then she wonders why she's single. But anyway, so do you think there's a very, very good possibility that the person that's thinking about hiring you is probably going to Google you and see what they can find out?
Yes, I've had people say before we went on a date, they Googled me.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So I will tell you, and please, I want you to be honest, did anybody Google me before today to see who they were coming to listen to?
Yeah, I Googled everybody.
Okay, see, very smart. So smart lady. So did you have any problem finding me?
No,
And my Facebook, did you look at my Facebook?
I didn't get to it, but
Okay.
it showed
It's
that it was down in the last one.
okay. Well, it's all unlocked.
Yeah.
So I consider myself now, with my job, I am a public figure. All my business is out there, but I'm also careful with what I put out there. And if it's a little risque, I tell people, I might take a little bit of a risk sometimes with my sense of humor. And sometimes I will post something like, oh, maybe I shouldn't, and I'll take it off. I scrutinize my page. Sometimes I do have to clean it up a little bit. But you guys, I want you to be crystal clear with your message. If it is either a Facebook or an Instagram, can people tell that you're a realtor? Or a lot of times I'll see some of these agents, they're doing real estate, they're a mortgage broker, they're selling vitamins, oh, and by the way, they do hair. You need to pick one and go with it. So really focus on what is your message to the consumer, because if somebody want to trust you with their $800,000 house, if they can't find you, or your social media is a mess. So you've got to be very, very careful with that, but also make sure people can find you. So I know our team, if you haven't Googled the Zach team, people tell us all day long they hired us because we were one of the first search results. But Zach, do you remember how many Google reviews we have right now, approximately?
I think about 1,600.
Something crazy. So it is a lot. And
I take that back. That's about 400. But all the online reviews is about 1,600.
okay, I think, and I could be wrong too. I thought I saw 800 for the Google reviews, but still, that's a lot. And most brokers barely have any. So here's a real quick funny story. I know I'm running over on time. Guys, I got an email from Keller Williams. Remember, I used to work for them almost a year ago. I got an email from them, and the message was, it was a voicemail message saying she needed my help to help her list her property. So I call up, and I'm like, so how did you find me? She goes, I am a Keller Williams agent. She goes, I just don't have time, but I have a duplex here in Midtown, and I went through the Keller Williams reviews, and your name kept coming up over and over, and I thought that you would be somebody I could trust. So guys, I'm going to encourage, there's power in online asking people for a review. So not only would I ask my clients back then to write a Google review for me, but then after I thanked them for doing it, I would copy that review, send it back to them. One more favor, would you paste this on the Keller Williams page so people could find me too? Because I didn't know if they were going to find me organically or through that. So anyway, I have an appointment to help her on Saturday. So again, the power of review. Here, this girl also, and she's an agent too. So anyway, I'm just planting that seed for you guys to think about. But really start to think about your online presence. Google yourself. Can you find yourself? And especially the MLSs, so you get a free profile right now if you're an active agent on Georgia MLS. Make sure you put a headshot. People want to see your pretty face because it's also going to show you all your it's going to show the public your production.
I just looked it up. I didn't know it was even there like that, but it is.
Yep, so
Yeah.
check that out. And last thing I'm going to remind everybody is, do you look like a local? So I will tell you, I didn't want to give up my DC phone number, so I have an iPhone, I have my DC 202 number, but the very first thing my behind did is I got a 404 area code. It's free through Google Voice because I wanted people to see, I wanted them to trust me, because I think a lot of agents relocate here from Miami or New York, and that's the first thing you read in their profile. And do people that have lived here, do they really want to hire somebody that's new to town and they're talking about Miami and you have to run your business how you see fit. But my advice, and I had, we talked about this morning on our morning call with the team, but I found out one of my agents still has an out-of-state plate on their car, just like Pride on the front, but it has their Georgia plate in the back. I'm like, so-and-so, I need to strongly recommend you take that front plate off before anybody sees it, because they want, we can go over here. We want to see that you're a local. So. And I'm going to tell you, I hear, even though I've been here almost 4 years now, all day long I'll hear of new cities. I don't know where they're at, but I don't say, so where is that? I take my phone discreetly out of the table and I'm like, oh, I know where that is. So I had a gentleman on the phone last week and he asked if I could help him in Winder. And it was a long pause. I'm like typing as fast as I can to see where it was, but he told me he found the house he liked. He wants to write an offer. I'm like, I can absolutely help you. I saw it's an hour. That's my cutoff, and then it's a referral. So, but anyway, that is my tip to you. Start, and also something I think we as a team do that's really great. We give you a zip code list, and we challenge you to start becoming familiar with the zip codes by previewing properties each week. So I know Seth was fantastic at doing that. He invites everybody else on the team. Hey guys, these are the zip codes I'm previewing this week. Who wants to join? And we have fun with that. So I think a lot of us agents, we all fall into this. We just wait until we have a showing in a zip code and like, oh, I checked this out because I had a showing there this week. So how great would it be, because Atlanta is so big, if you could speak knowledgeably because you've already previewed properties there. So that is something else that we do. So guys, I've been talking for a long, long time. I'm curious, is there anything that I didn't cover today that you were hoping to get your questions answered? Yes, ma'am.
Could you speak a little bit about the benefits of joining a team rather than being a single agent, especially if you're...
I love that question. So when you think about, and I'm going to remember what it was like for me as a single agent, and when you think of all the tasks that you have as a single agent, imagine each task is a ball. So you've got under contract, so you've got to now schedule the home inspection, that's a ball. You've got to review the results of the home inspection and go through the ATAC and make sure that you aren't missing any of the milestones that you built into your offer, and get with checking in the lender weekly and all those other activities. You're doing this all by yourself, and by the grace of God, if you get to the closing table without any hiccups, fantastic. But the benefit of maybe being on a team, and I'm going to talk real quickly about some of the folks in our team. We have Brianna Sumter. She is our office manager. And I've never had a closing coordinator, so what a blessing to have somebody like that just takes over my... You have one?
Yes, I can testify. Honestly.
Yes, preach. So isn't it wonderful to have somebody that helps you with that, to not only keep you on track, but that way you can focus on selling some more, right? So we have that person to help out. We have a marketing manager. His name is Eric Ellis. So he's the one that helped us with all the advertising. And guys, on the tables, there are just a one-pager. I'd encourage you to take that home with you today. The back has a recap as far as what it looks like to be part of our team, but there's also a QR code if you want to continue the discussion after today. But Eric does a really great job making our name relevant out there, especially when we're working with buyers and when it's time for us to write an offer as part of the Zach team. Remember when I was 6 months into the business, I met Zach? That's because of the marketing that he does, that I knew who he was. We have a very strong brand. So you've got that behind you. But also the biggest thing, guys, I look at the Zach team as being a first aid kit, because it breaks my heart when, guys, if it's been a while since you got your license, I want you to remember the turmoil you went through to go through all that studying, pay all that money to get that license, and then people give up after 6 months because they haven't had a closing, or a year. And so many agents, and I know speaking with Rita before she joined us, Rita, I heard that you were with another brokerage and you were doing all the trainings, right?
Yes.
But what was the missing piece?
The connectivity, like someone to mentor, true guidance rather than just, oh yeah, learn this, read this.
But also you were missing leads, right? Like, who do you call?
Yes.
So it's like Rita was getting ready to get ready, right? And there were a lot of people at my old brokerage. They went to every single class. And with my old brokerage, you could spend time from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. going to classes, but they didn't know who to call to drum up that business. So sometimes the benefit of a team, our team, you have a steady flow of leads that we send you, and your job is to follow up with each one in hopes of establishing two-way communication. So you're not going to connect with every lead, and we realize that. But your job is to figure out any way possible to connect with that person, and most of the time it's a phone call. So we even teach you with in-person role play we do on Fridays now at our office. By the way, our office is right next door. That's why we love this venue here. But we're right over on the other side of Virginia Avenue. It looks like a white building, and you'll see the RE/MAX sign there. But I do not only Zoom calls, but also in-person training each week. But now we have Zoe, who's one of our team members, coaching our team. We have our laptops up, and we go around and we listen to each other making phone calls. And for some people, that might scare the sugar out of you. But how are you ever going to get better and make a change unless you start learning from others? And we've got some people on the team that have been doing this for years, and all of a sudden they start deciding to join us, and it's like, aha, I never thought to do it that way. And they're so grateful that we're doing things like this. So we're here to help you. And I take it personally, if somebody's going to join our team, and if we're not practicing what we preach with the promises and the commitments that we make, especially during the interview process, that's the worst thing that could happen. If you're going to talk about what we didn't give you after we talked about it, that's really, really bad. So we are really committed to everybody's success, and making sure that we're building you to be an amazing agent. So thank you for asking that question. And by the way, Rita joined us just last week and coming from another brokerage. Rita, have you had any, and I swear that I did not coach her at all before today. I just invited her and told her to hang out with us. Tell us a little bit, is this what you were expecting joining the team?
Honestly, exceeding my expectations. My background is in hospitality and human resources, so customer service, people, love it. And that's somewhat short story on what got me into real estate. But what I can tell you, and something that I was warned when I was in real estate school, is you're going to learn how to pass the test. If you're studying right now, you're not going to be taught how to be a real estate agent. So once I got, my license and got with that first broker, I'm like, oh great, they have amazing training. They're going to teach me how to be a real estate agent. Honestly, guys, I got in there and I took all those trainings, and like Adam said, I was getting prepared to be prepared, but they still didn't teach me how to be a real estate agent. And like I said, I've only been on the team for about a couple weeks now, and that's actually giving myself some extra time. But what I can tell you from those daily script calls, the in-person training, the going around the table, even me, they were like, Sharita, what would you say? And I'm like, I don't know. But I gave it a chance, and I said what I would say, and the feedback honestly has just been phenomenal. Like it's really been amazing, to be honest.
And Rita, I'm never forgetting it, and bless her heart, but I remember the very first time, and maybe shame on me too, because I didn't even let you listen to what a script practice sounded like, so we had her be the pretend agent, getting the phone call, and she answers the phone, hello? And I stopped and I go, Rita, is that the way you answer your phone? So we had some fun, but a lot of agents answer their phone that way sometimes. I'm like, are you a realtor with the hello?
Yeah, it's like you think you call the wrong person.
I know. I said, I'm sorry to disturb you, but I'm calling about, your listing. So, yeah. And one thing I can honestly say is we are not competitive with each other. That's awful. Yeah. No, we're only here to help build each other up and to have people that come from a place of service with the coaching, and you can always call each other. So that's great.
Yes, everything has been extremely constructive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, do you answer the phone like that? but not with that. Everything has been great. And I am IS, so I'm very, with the disc, very relationship based and very sensitive. So, that's coming from a sensitive soul, that everything genuinely feels like it's being said with love and not like in a mushy way, but just in a, I want you to succeed. Your success is our success.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, great. We're almost out of time. Again, my name's Adam. I've got my business cards here, and hopefully I still look like my business card. My mom had a talk with me about a year and a half ago. Oh, well, had a talk with me about a year and a half ago saying you need to update your headshot. I'm all right.
I was just wondering if you could go through the GOLD acronym again.
The which acronym?
GOLD.
Oh, so G stands for greet. So you're going to greet your client. O is open up a dialogue. L is lead the sale. And D is deepen brand loyalty. So even though that was specific to one of the companies, I really think you can apply that to what we do now. So and I might not just say greet, but how do you explain after you establish that two-way communication with somebody, how do we get to explain how we work? And with our team, we have a rhythm to everything that we do. We have beautiful, we were talking a little bit about being part of the team. We give everybody tools, and they're all branded with your picture and your name on them. So everybody has an individual listing presentation when you have a seller, and also a buyer presentation. So again, it's a beautiful piece, and we have it memorized because we practice, don't we, Rita?
Yes.
And Rita heard me go through it from beginning to end last night. Rita, did I sound like I knew what I was saying?
Yeah.
But it's just practice. It's not that I'm an expert. It's just we've role played the heck out of it so that I feel really, really good. And even piggybacking with Zach sometimes, he and I were really instrumental in putting that document together. So we put a lot of time into it. So we think it's a really great tool. But also as part of our team, if you have listings, we include your lockbox. We do all the marketing, all the flyers for the listings. You get a name badge, business cards. So we try. We like to think that it's, I call it valet service for our agents. So we want to make sure you guys are taken care of. But truth be told, we're also maintaining the integrity of the brand. That way Rita doesn't have a purple business card, Seth has a red one, you know, crazy stuff. So we want to make sure everything's clean and consistent with our brand, but also we want everything to be as easy as possible for our agents so that they can do their jobs. So gold, good question.
My favorite part was the sharing of the GOLD acronym as it relates to customer service. I'm really going to use that for my business. Adam is so great and knowledgeable about real estate. I really enjoyed hearing everything that he had to say about Midtown and the Zach team, and I really just look forward to growing within the team.
I'm so glad I showed up to this class today. I learned so much. It was very informative. I feel like I got unstuck. I didn't even realize I was this stuck, but I'm glad I showed up, and thank you again for this opportunity.